Todd Schafer began filming high school games and individual athletes during his days at Parkland High School. His video company produced many highlight films for teams and players. Now, in addition to that venue, he operates a sports autograph business called Under the Radar, where he gets to help others add to their sports collections.
I started losing a lot of my individual highlight film business, which was part of the lifeblood of my video production company, and I wanted to find a way to offset that income. And obviously, as a passionate collector, I got tired of seeing a lot of the same guys recycled over and over again at a lot of the same shows. I was lucky to know a few former major league players and was able to reach out to them, and a lot of them were able to reach out to their friends, and we started filling in some of the gaps of some of the under the radar type guys that you didn't see at the shows. And number one, not only got to help our own collections, but at the same time got a chance to help a lot of other people that needed a lot of those guys as well. And we just prefer a lot of the little guys because, yeah, a guy like Jimmy Rollins might do 2-3 shows every 2 or 3 years, where a guy like Jeff Jenkins hasn't done a show since the Phillies, shortly after the Phillies won the World Series. And it would be the same thing with a lot of the Eagles guys. You'll see Nick Foles, you'll see Carson Wentz, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of the linemen in the next 2 years, or the linebackers, or some of the non-skill positions. I always say it's nice that a lot of my childhood heroes have become my friends. It's amazing how many group texts that I've had with some of these guys over games or over situations, or even just your typical, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Father's Day, to see one of these guys that you watched play sending something like that. You get chills sometimes when you look at your phone. And if you would have said to 11-year-old me, not only would I have been able to get your autograph then when they blew me off in the tunnel at Veterans Stadium, but I would have been able to get as many of them as I wanted to anytime I want, I would have said you were crazy.
The Parkland High School grad mostly does private signings with these athletes. Collectors can send their items in to get signed. It's a fun hobby, but as Schafer explains, traveling can be a little trying at times.
I was in the Dominican Republic 2 years ago, and right before I was ready to get on the plane to come back home, I had 2 suitcases loaded with all kinds of stuff. I did 5 or 6 players that were down there, and they paged me over the loudspeaker, and I went down an escalator, and there were about 6 customs guys going through everything. None of them spoke English, and they were all smiles looking at what the items are, like, oh, this is some really cool stuff. So yes, I got really nervous at that point, and another player said to me a few years ago when I said, hey, can I mail 6 dozen balls down here to get player X? And they said, no, don't do that. They'll end up on a sand lot later this afternoon. So that made me a little bit nervous, but obviously as they went through and realized it was nothing but innocent baseball cards and baseballs, and that there were no contraband, they zipped it back up and said, you can go. So I felt good about that. Nationally, like obviously the baggage handlers sometimes have me a little bit nervous. My suitcase, for the most part, is they've become more indestructible as we've gone along, to make sure that stuff doesn't get dinged. And the most important stuff I take as carry-ons. But we've been very lucky. Nothing's been lost or damaged by way of that. I don't mail things that we're not afraid to lose. And for the most part, 95% of what we have is done in person anyway, where the items never leave my possession.